Hello and welcome to this Myloc webinar about industrializing project logistic management. Today focusing on implementation. This is the third and last webinar in this series, and I'll keep track on the chat questions and we will take them at the end. So please feel free to ask questions throughout. But first, Anders, for the new attendees, can you please do a quick introduction to Myloc?
Yes, thank you, and welcome everyone. All right, so a Malmö-based company focusing and specialized in providing mission-critical solutions for logistics operations, and today and in this webinar series, particularly for large projects.
Great. So let's then move on with a quick presentation of us. Anders, what is your role at Myloc?
Yes, thank you. So I'm the director of the business area Myloc Construction, where we focus, as I mentioned, solely on construction and big project logistic management. We've been doing this for more than 10 years now, and I've have the same role throughout this time, and basically been living with day and night with the concept of construction logistic management.
That's great to have you here. And Gustav, what is your role?
Thank you, Anna. My name is Gustav Ax. I've been working as a consultant here at Myloc since November last year. During my time here, I've been involved in a major battery project in Norway. I started my career at Saab in Linköping many years ago, and I've also worked with big construction projects. What about you, Johanna?
Well, I have the privilege to moderate this webinar series, which also makes me learn a lot about logistic management in these mega projects. My background is in supply chain management, leading both operations, logistic operations and projects for more than 15 years in often quite challenging conditions. Today, you find me at Sweco, one of Europe's leading engineering consultancies. But with my background as head of logistics, the implementation part lies close to my heart, and I have a huge respect for strategies and contracts and frameworks. But the toughest part always lies in the implementation and to keep the project running efficiently in the long run. So Anders, tell us a little bit more about today's session's topic, implementation.
Yes, thank you. Well, just first, a quick look in the rear mirror. So we have 3 themes for this series. For anyone who hasn't been joining us for the whole series, we started to talking about how to manage risk and improve flexibility, productivity, with the control tower for project logistics. And then we spoke a lot about, in the second seminar or webinar, we spoke a lot about what kind of effect the fact that this is a digitalized way of working, so data could have in terms of operations, control and transparency. And today, as you said, the third issue that typically comes back to us as a question, how do you implement this? Because like you, Johanna, most people are certainly aware that the implementation is the key to be successful here. Regardless of the tools and regardless of your strategies, you need to have things up and running and working in real operation. And that's why we kept this at the last theme in the series of 3. And I'm really looking forward to dive into the details of it together with you.
Okay, so is Myloc then a plug and play, and implementation is no brainer, and it's all gonna be very easy?
Well, it is in one sense, and that is the software is in place, the tool, the cloud service is up and running, and you can easily set it up. We're talking about hours or days, regardless of the complexity size of the project, and we are up and running. But that is not the challenge. While you have that, there are other challenges we need to meet. And you need to have like an idea about how to use this tool. And so we call it a holistic and logistic design and setup. How do you want to work? How do you want your flow to operate? you need to add the alignment part with the contract. What have you written in the terms with your suppliers and contractors? How does your operational routines during production look like? Are they adopted or not? And the key issues of feedback and the feedback loop to go from a routine to a habit. We would also like to focus on daring to have an ambition, a high ambition, and we will look closer to this later in the webinar. So we have, over the years, we've done this for 10 years, sometimes with extremely positive and impressive result, but sometimes not so much. And we have bundled and trying to accumulate all the experience we have captured and put it in an implementation model, which is the foundation for this webinar, actually.
Cool. And I think that's maybe the best rhyme this week then, logistic and holistic. I think I'll be using that. But I believe we need to dive deeper here. So Gustav, help me out. What does this mean? Dive in a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. I would like to share some experience that we have learned over the years. Let's start with the first point, do your homework. It's very important to start early in the project, collect data and analyze it. Let me give you some examples here. How many trucks, how many packages, what resources are needed, time for installation, etc. If you don't have enough data, collect more. You will need it, trust me. You will never have enough data. After that, let's move on to identify risk. Now that you have the needed data, you will also find some bottlenecks. The space is not enough. The gate can only handle 3 trucks every hour, etc. But now that you're aware of the bottlenecks in advance, you have time to handle them. Okay? And now you have you can save time in the production. When you save time in the production, you will save costs later. Finish by execute the plan. It's time to decide who is responsible for what and when. You can start to build up the logistics process and plan for a solution. Okay.
Yeah, I think you make it sound very easy. So you mean it's just like a simple number of activities and then ensure that the solution is thought through and well documented? Is it enough to get everyone involved to just start working like that, Anders?
Well, unfortunately, it's not. And we learned the hard way over these 10 years and hundreds of projects that the alignment with the contract and contract terms with various and all of the different contractors and suppliers are one of the cornerstones and keys to be successful. And often when we come into the project, there are some existing contracts with the terms, if they include or not logistic operations and requirements from the contractor or supplier. And also, more often, there are a lot of contracts left to be closed. And the more we can mirror what we want to do and steer the responsibilities in the contracts, the better are our ability to implement it in the production at a later stage. And what's important here is to design the contract terms not only for the individual or unique contractor or supplier, but looking at the supply chain that is beyond that partner. There may be more levels of contractors or suppliers in terms. Take everything into account and put it in your terms. And this process is with some of your suppliers, it might be easier, and with others not so much. So it's worthwhile spending time to be informative and actually helping them to understand not only how it's supposed to work, but also how they can benefit from the model, because that is almost always the case. There are a lot of benefits to draw from it. And when we're doing this, it's sometimes some are more forward-leaning and others not so much. And a crucial part of this is there to be a challenge contractors and suppliers in terms of how can you make use of it? How can you benefit from it? how can you reduce your own time or your own risk, or how does it affect your purchase pattern and behavior? So taking all this into account, align it with the contract terms, your logistic design and solution, you have come another important step on the road to a successful project.
Okay, so that sounds a little bit more complex, but it also sounds that it's somehow possible to do savings without taking any risks.
Yes,
so
certainly.
if the solution itself is documented and then the contract reflects it, then I guess it's just getting started this time. Or Gustav, you spoke earlier about designing the routines. So how does this start when the project is starting up? How
Yes.
do you start?
Routines are like a clear roadmap for everyone in logistics and make sure everything is done right. One easy way to implement the routines on a daily basis is to set up a meeting structure with the contractors and focus on the logistics. This meeting should be mandatory for each contractor, and some KPIs, and look to the numbers together. Provide feedback to the contractors and help them feel responsible. Inform them what they do good and what they can do better. Carrots and sticks. Do this meeting every week. If necessary, do them twice a week. Control is the key to success here. And remember, is good enough really good enough? No, I don't think so. Probably not to make a successful project.
Okay.
If I can add, Johanna,
yes, of course you can.
Typically, we can see there is a difference between the industrial construction project, like big industries are developing, or traditional construction projects, where industry projects are typically have a higher ambition in terms of making different contractors compliant and being compliant to the decided rules and contract terms, and that is certainly a key to be successful here. So challenge contractors, make them have bind them to their commitments, and it will be worthwhile all through the project. Also, we mentioned utilize incentives. It's I think it's more and more crucial to see that there are things to gain, but if you're making trouble for the project as a whole, so combine positive and negative incentives in your contract terms and implement them and use them. But actually, why I wanted to break in here was the part with responsibility, because there is a typical question coming up. If we are taking charge of logistic management as a whole in a this mega project, aren't we also taking over responsibilities from different contractors or suppliers? And our experience and meaning is that it's absolutely not necessarily so. And that's about utilizing the framework of roles and responsibilities that you set up in your logistics design. You mirrored it in your purchase and the contract, and that will safeguard you as the project management or the buyer of the project.
But yeah, I think, and what Gustav was saying resonated well with me as well, about helping them to take responsibility and helping them to maybe not feel, but really to give the tools to have to take the control and to be able to say, I can be responsible for this. Because I think often you get this, you are responsible, but you don't really, you feel a little bit lost, and I guess this is what the tool is providing. So I think it seems fine, but I have this that sometimes, I guess, you make it sound very easy. That's what I'm. So what is it that somehow construction projects aren't maybe that famous of being super efficient logistic wise?
Well, in sometimes they're not, but they certainly can be. And I was a little bit ahead of myself, perhaps, but the strange combination that we can observe in so many projects is that the higher ambition in terms of compliance with planning routines, reporting routines, so the higher ambition the project have, and forcing or luring different contractors and suppliers to comply to the rules decided, the less work needs to be spent because it becomes more and more efficient. And we have heard from many projects about it's more like a self-running, routine. They're spending less and less time because they have implemented routines and made them habits in the project, and it becomes really, really easy. And that is a good thing. That I can't underline it enough. And we are still working with this in some projects where project management doesn't quite dare to challenge the contractors in working with this high level of compliance.
So that would be one of the reasons, because you say it's to have high ambitions, but what would be the obstacles or the normal challenges of lowering your ambitions when it comes to actually putting it into the contract, maybe?
Well, often there is a lot of good things in construction culture, and one is service. People are service minded and very flexible, and so instead of being compliant with routines, they say, okay, we can fix things. So we find ways of workarounds. And the problem with that is when you solve one problem, this workaround has a tendency of becoming a new routine. And then you lower the bar or your ambition with the project, and then you lose the benefits of digitalization, you lose control gradually, and you implement inadvertently, you implement a way of working that is more, resource demanding in terms of administration, labor time for people involved in logistics and so on. So be strict with your models. There needs to be room for service and flexibility, but have them within the model.
Sorry. Please continue.
I said trust is good, but control is better. I learned this from German, and I love it actually, because it's so aligned with what we're thinking, and every experience from traditional manufacturing and other kind of production industries. The control brings so many benefits. So the small amount of time you need to spend with a report or something else, you get it back tenfold, and I think that is crucial. So have a high ambition. The higher ambition, the less work you need to spend on it, and stay in control.
So a little bit more work in the beginning gives a lot less work throughout. So I think I got a clear picture now, and maybe you know me by now, and I love concrete examples and stories from the field. So I hope, Anders, that you prepared a slide on this on my request.
Yeah. I since I know we were going here, I did prepare a slide for it. And one thing that we were aware that we were solving a problem regarding lack of space for lay down areas or for deliveries. We were congestion issues in the project site. There are a lot of challenges that we spoke about in the first webinar, and I think everyone in this webinar is quite aware of. But what we were perhaps surprised about, at least the magnitude of it, was when customers starting to calling and kind of complaining and a little bit worried about when contractors has come back to them and said, well, this goes too fast. the work is going too fast. I have to send people from my workforce, back home or to another project, and that kind of clarifies how much work you traditionally spend on logistic issues in a typical project, and what we can reduce and eliminate with a structured way of working with it.
Shockingly.
Yeah, actually,
numbers.
It is. Yeah.
And Gustav, do you have an example or story to share?
Yes, of course. Something that I often hear from our customers is that they can use the data from the previous projects when estimating the cost for a new project. More or less spend time in the beginning, and you can save much time later, as you spoke about earlier.
So not just for a specific project, but actually building up throughout, like for many new projects, and building up a database of knowledge for your company in general.
Yes, correct.
Nice. Okay. Would you like to say some more words, or we can dive into questions?
There is I think the middle quote here we are already
don't leave that
before.
out, Anders.
We already touched that, but typically, as we have developed, our customers have accordingly, and so our ambition and the customer's ambition is obviously growing all the time. I've heard so many times over the 10 years, there's no one working with the same level of ambition as we are, and there is always coming new one with a higher ambition. But what always comes back to us as a feedback or as perhaps the lessons learned at the end of projects, that our customers are always saying, if we only knew or realized the potential of this, we would have driven this even further in terms of implementing routines, automating the work around logistics. So it's an eye-opener to start working with it, and an eye-opener regarding risk management, cost cuttings, and being more flexible. So it's a really interesting journey to be out with together with all our customers, to learn more and to drive this step by step further.
Yeah, that's nice. So now we're gonna head into the questions, and please feel free to write more questions. Actually, I got a question from last session that I thought fitted better here, so I'm gonna start off with that one. In huge, and I can only imagine that in mega projects, there's a huge personnel turnover. So constantly new people in the projects. And last time we talked about that you are working a lot with training the trainers to know the system. Is this still something you recommend when there's a high turnover of the staff? Someone who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, I can take this one now.
Yeah.
And our answer is yes here. We think it's a good approach. The project also had the opportunity to put their own touch on the training associated with the project. So, and we also think that we can train the super users, and they will handle the training to their customer later. So yeah.
Okay, so a super user approach is working well. Maybe it works really, really great actually when there's a high turnover. Great. So do you think?
I think, Johanna,
Yes,
I think I can add to
please
Gustav's confidence, because I think it's the testimonial or the proof of the pudding really is the fact that we have thousands of users. We have met perhaps a few hundred of them in total over the years, and there is this typical churn of people coming and going from the project. That's what it looks like every day for us. And the fact that they are able to continue deliver the work around the logistic at the same high level over time, without us being really aware of these new users coming in and going, etc., is I find that is the proof of the pudding actually, that the trainer concept works. really well, and that also gives the customer a lot of flexibility and speed in terms of onboarding new team members.
I think it makes quite a lot of sense, because I don't know how this is managed, with how many project leaders this would be managed without a proper system. But of course, that makes you more dependent on the people, while having more knowledge and control in a system. Yeah, I think it makes sense. So do you think it will be easier in the future to implement these kind of systems, or more complicated? Sorry, this is the question. Or more complicated the more digital the construction business becomes. So yeah, I guess the development is general, that construction sites are becoming more digital, more systems,
it is
more requests.
it is. I think it's becoming more and more easy for the individual users, and kind of the different systems like Myloc is becoming more and more complex to be able to provide the ease of use to the final user. So on one side, more advanced systems with more capabilities, more integrations with other parts of the ecosystems, but for the end users, easier and easier. Yes.
Okay. You wanted to add something, Gustav, or?
No, I think Anders made it clear.
Okay, good. So now I think that, well, today definitely for me was quite easy to comprehend, but you make it sound, I have another question for you. You make it sound very easy, and actually that's, I guess it's good, but with all these big savings, does this system come with a big cost?
Of course, it's extremely expensive, and no, it's not. I mean, compared to the labor time we are saving, this is insignificant, I must say. It's the business model is we have a subscription fee that is fixed over the month, no surprises, and I would say any project we have been involved in, everyone is cost aware, and there's always a pressure on price and so on. But at the end of the day, it has never been really an issue compared to the kind of savings only in times of man time in different levels in the project.
That's nice. I guess that makes it even easier. So Anders, if we have some listeners today who wants to know more and discuss their specific project, maybe already tomorrow, what is their next step?
Their next step is to either you can enter our website, myloc.se, or send us an email, info@myloc.se, and we will get back to you for in-depth discussions.
Well, then I would like to say a big thank you for today. And since this is the last out of 3 webinars, a big thank you to the participants who attended 1, 2, or all 3 webinars. And the webinars will be available on YouTube, and it will be sent out to you as well. So I wish you a great rest of the day, and I hope you will enjoy, maybe together with your team, rewatching these webinars.